When Nigerians think of Peter Obi, one image immediately comes to mind: a soft-spoken man in simple black attire, clutching a notebook, preaching prudence, frugality, and transparency. To many, Obi represents hope, a different kind of politician who values accountability in a nation drowning in corruption. But behind that calm demeanor and his trademark phrase, "go and verify," lies a mystery. How exactly did Peter Obi accumulate his wealth? Unlike many Nigerian politicians whose wealth is flamboyantly displayed through convoys, sprawling mansions, and a fondness for ostentation, Peter Obi seems to embody the opposite. He speaks against waste, criticizes government's lavish spending, and insists that leaders should live like the people they serve. And yet, by every account, Peter Obi is a very wealthy man. He flies private when he needs to, donates generously, and sustains political campaigns that cost billions of naira. So how did Peter Obi build such financial strength quietly, almost invincibly, without the trails of scandals that usually accompany Nigeria's political elites? This is the untold story. Peter Gregory Obi was born on July 19, 1961 in Onitsha, Anambra State, into a middle-class Igbo Catholic family. His upbringing was modest, far from the opulence many might imagine. He attended Christ the King College, Onitsha, before moving on to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where he studied philosophy. At first glance, a philosophy degree hardly sounds like the foundation for immense wealth. But Obi's genius wasn't tied to textbooks. It was tied to instincts, discipline, and a restless entrepreneurial spirit. Those who knew him at Nsukka recall that even as a student, he was already thinking like a trader. He would frequently shuttle between Lagos, Onitsha, and abroad, seeking opportunities to import and sell goods. While his classmates focused on academics, Obi was building connections. By the time he graduated in 1984, he had already set his eyes on commerce as his true calling. The 1980s and 1990s were turbulent decades for Nigeria, with economic crises and military regimes suffocating local businesses. But for sharp Igbo traders like Obi, it was also a golden age of importation. Foreign products from electronics to beverages were in high demand among Nigeria's growing middle class. Obi established himself as an importer of luxury goods. His most famous success came through the beverage industry. He became the sole distributor of several international brands in Nigeria, particularly South African breweries' products, and later the famous Irish beer Guinness, among others. It was in this sector that Obi earned the nickname the Import King. His businesses thrived because of two things: discipline and networks. While many Nigerian businessmen lived flamboyantly, reinvesting little in their businesses, Obi was notorious for his austerity. Every naira counted. Friends joked that Obi could make one bag of rice last longer than a governor's budget. That reputation, mocked by some, became the bedrock of his wealth. By the mid-1990s, Obi had already become a multi-millionaire. He expanded into banking, trading, and investment, joining the boards of several financial institutions. Unknown to many, Obi was quietly building what would become an empire of strategic stakes in some of Nigeria's biggest companies. When you look at Peter Obi, nothing screams tycoon. He wears simple clothes, avoids jewelry, and even his personal cars are often unassuming. But beneath that humble exterior is a man who made some of the shrewdest investment decisions in modern Nigeria. Obi was not just content with importation, he spread his tentacles into banking and finance. At different times, he sat on the boards of Fidelity Bank, Guardian Express Mortgage Bank, Guardian Express Bank PLC, Future View Securities, Paymaster Nigeria, Champs Nigeria, Core Limited, Card Center Limited, and many others. Those positions were not just mere decorations. They came with stock options, equity stakes, and dividends that compounded year after year. By the early 2000s, Obi had already built a diversified portfolio that ensured he could survive any political storm. And yet, unlike other businessmen, he never flaunted his wealth. He rarely appeared in the society pages. He wasn't known for wild parties. To the casual observer, Obi was just another quiet entrepreneur from Anambra. But those who traded with him knew this man was rich and dangerously strategic. In 2021, the Pandora Papers investigation rocked the world, exposing hidden offshore assets of politicians, businessmen, and celebrities. Among those named was Peter Obi. Documents revealed that Obi and his family had secretly set up offshore companies in tax havens, including the British Virgin Islands. Critics quickly pounced. How could the man preaching transparency be hiding wealth offshore? Obi defended himself, insisting that he did nothing illegal. He explained that he set up the accounts as part of succession planning for his children, and that Nigerians misunderstood the global practice of offshore investments. Regardless of where one stands, the Pandora Papers gave Nigerians their first real glimpse into Obi's financial depth. The revelations confirmed what many had long suspected. Obi's wealth was vast, but carefully hidden from public spectacle. In 2003, Peter Obi made the unexpected leap from business to politics. He contested for governor of Anambra State under the banner of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA. The election was rigged against him in favor of Chris Ngige, but Obi, with the same stubborn patience that had built his businesses, fought back. After 3 years of legal battles, he was declared the rightful winner and sworn in as governor in 2006. This period tested not just his political will, but also his finances. Nigerian politics is expensive, and Obi's campaign had to be sustained over years of courtroom struggles. Only a man with independent wealth could have survived such a battle. As governor, Obi shocked the nation with his ascetic style. He cut government spending, refused to live extravagantly, and even carried his own briefcase. He insisted that governors should not waste taxpayers' money on frivolities. His government invested heavily in education, infrastructure, and healthcare. And by the time he left office in 2014, Obi was celebrated as one of Nigeria's most prudent governors. Yet, even then, his critics whispered, how does this man fund his politics without donations from godfathers? Where exactly is his money coming from? Fast forward to 2022, Obi announced his presidential ambition under the Labour Party. Almost overnight, he became a phenomenon. Millions of Nigerian youths, the obedients as they call themselves, rallied behind him, seeing him as the antidote to the old order. But presidential campaigns are not cheap. Billboards, logistics, private jets, rallies, these things cost billions of naira. While supporters donated generously, insiders admit that Obi also spent heavily from his own pockets. This raised the same old question: how rich is Peter Obi really? Analysts estimate that between his importation businesses, board memberships, real estate, offshore accounts, and investments, Obi's net worth could run into hundreds of millions of dollars. But because he avoids public flamboyance, his true wealth is almost impossible to pin down. Perhaps the most intriguing thing about Obi's wealth is his philosophy towards it. In interviews, he has repeatedly emphasized that wealth should serve a purpose, not just vanity. He recounts stories of living in small hotel rooms when abroad, carrying his own bags, and refusing to buy unnecessary luxuries. To Obi, frugality is not poverty, it is discipline, and discipline is what built his empire. Critics say that this is just branding, a carefully curated image for politics. Supporters insist it is genuine. But whether one believes him or not, there's no denying that Obi has mastered the art of being rich without looking rich. In a country where politicians are notorious for looting public coffers, Obi's wealth fascinates Nigerians because it appears different. He wasn't a career civil servant who suddenly became a billionaire after one term in office. His businesses predated his politics, and yet the mystery remains. Unlike Aliko Dangote or Tony Elumelu, Obi never published the details of his empire. He never made the Forbes billionaire list. He never flaunted his companies in the media. His wealth exists in the shadows, partly visible, partly hidden, almost always sparking curiosity. So how did Peter Obi get so wealthy without telling anyone? The answer lies in a mixture of early trading hustle, smart investments, offshore structures, and an obsessive philosophy of frugality. He was wealthy long before politics, but unlike many of his peers, he has deliberately kept his fortune quiet. Perhaps Obi believes that explaining his wealth would cheapen it. Or perhaps he knows that in a country where wealth often breeds suspicion, silence is the best armor. Whatever the case, Peter Obi remains one of the few Nigerian politicians whose money story is less about sudden miracles and more about decades of quiet strategy. He may never tell the full tale, but one thing is certain: behind the modest suits and quiet voice lies a man who mastered the art of being rich in a land where wealth usually screams. And maybe, just maybe, that silence is what makes him so fascinating. Thank you for joining us today. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you later.